In this video we are going to take a look at my first knife, made by ANV, aka Acta Non Verba. So I have been thinking about pulling the trigger on this knife for quite some time, probably several years. And I've seen some of their other works, but this is the one knife that actually spoke to me from a pure user slash design standpoint or aspect. So this is the M311 Spelter, and it's made in different versions with different steels and coatings on the blade, but the general design is the same. I've also seen that there is what I believe to be a new version, which is called the M311 Spelter NC, which is sort of looks like the same knife but with a smaller finger choil of sorts. Well, it doesn't really have a full finger choil. And I was debating which one to get, but I really do think a finger choil will work great with this specific knife. And I know that finger choils is something that people divide on, but I personally kind of prefer it on certain models, this being one of them. So let us start by doing a unboxing here and going over the design, the specifications, etc. So let's open it up, shall we? With something falling out right away. So congratulations on your purchase of Acta Non Verba knife. Knife assembled by someone and inspected by, well, someone else. I really can't pronounce the names that well. Oh, and there's also a version in non-English. I guess, I think this knife is made in the Czech Republic, so this is probably, well, how do you say it in English? Czechish? I don't fully know, to be honest. So let's open this up here. Pretty, straightforward box. Not a lot of, stuff going on. It's just, you know, the card, it is some wrapping, and then boom, the knife itself, and some type of sticker. Oops. Some sort of like a padded soft sticker, you know, thicker version, plastic. This might be important for some people, not super important for me personally, but well, a little bit of A&V, you know, merchandise of sorts. So let's take a look at the knife now, shall we? So this is what you get. Kydex sheath. This is a bit different of a locking mechanism. Never really seen this particular system before, but I'm sure it's, you know, functional. Just never seen a Kydex sheath with it before. Let's see, do I have any rattling? No rattling. And the retention itself. So the retention seems to be fairly... Yeah, this is some good retention, I'd say. Yeah, the retention is very, you know, much to my liking. Man, a lot of stuff on my table here, or pieces of hair. Anyway, great retention, I'd say. I've seen some Kydex sheath from different makers with well, not the best retention. I've seen some, you know, somewhere in between, like a 5 out of 10 retention. This, I would say, is more in the top. That I will say. Let's see. So you can get water, moist, etc. out of the sheath. And you can obviously change the placing of the belt attachments here, should you want to. So overall, I mean, this feels like a pretty solid Kydex sheath. Gonna have to look into the, you know, how these actually work. Is it as simple as pressing like that? Okay, well, it's quite uncomplicated, it would seem. Press it down, then up, I think. Then you just, you know, put it on your belt, back, back like that, press it down, yeah. Kind of straightforward. Should be pretty solid. Yeah, solid Kydex sheath. And the knife itself. Might remove the lanyard here later on. But it is nice that they decided to include it. I mean, it's always easier to just, well, if you don't like it, just remove it. As quite as, you know, simple as that. So let's take a look here at the specs now, shall we? So this knife is made in Elmax. I think there's also a version that is made in, oh man, what's the steel? Was it like N690 or something? Well, there's a non-premium steel version and a more premium steel version. This being the premium version. And we can also see that it is a coated blade. And I think that, you know, it's probably not coated to you know, to improve the corrosion resistance, because, well, Elmax is quite corrosion resistant, but it's more coated probably because of, you know, tactical elements, or whatever you would like to call it. So we have a overall length, a total length of 277 millimeters, so 27.7 centimeters. We have a blade length of 130 millimeters, and we've got a blade thickness, let's see, of 85 millimeters. So this is a fairly thick, stout blade. I think the weight should be around 285 grams, I remember reading. So there's a bit of weight to it, I'd say. We got some interesting grinds here to look through or look over here. But now the background is black and the blade is black, so I hope that you will be able to see the different grinds that is going on here. Looking at the knife like this, perhaps. First of all, you have this rounded part, for thumb placement, and it does feel actually pretty amazing, or pretty great actually, to place your thumb like this and your finger at the choil. And much like I said, I do like finger choils that are actually full finger choils, that are rounded nicely. This fits my finger absolutely perfect. This is why I chose the regular M311 instead of the M311 NC, which does not have this finger choil. So placing your finger like this feels great. This would be really good for detail work, for feather sticking, etc. It feels really nice in my hand. Quite great ergos, really. But continue looking at the grinds here. So it is actually a bit rounded, the spine here, and then goes into sort of a swedge, or sort of, it does go into a swedge, and quite a semi-fine swedge even here. You see the grind lines? Let's see, going going here. The swedge grind lines, here are some grease from my fingers, and then it goes to a thicker part here, increasing the strength of the final part here of the blade and the tip. So we do get a strong tip going on. This would have been a lot easier to show if the knife was not, with the DLC coating, if it was, just a satin blade. But hopefully you are able to see some of these details. And speaking of ergos here now, I wear size 10 in gloves. I do have fairly large hands. Placing the knife in my hand looks like this. So I could go with just the back part, actually. If you want to do some slight, chopping movements, despite the knife being as, well, medium-sized or small as it is. You also have this finger groove, and like I always mention, finger grooves can be tricky because not all hands are, shaped the same. So sometimes the finger groove, gets placed in a way that is, not very comfortable. But in this case, as you can see, it works incredibly well with my hand. And placing, the finger groove here, the finger choil here, I do get a really nice grip. So I will say that from a ergonomical standpoint, this knife feels great in my hand. I will say that the handle is quite, beefy, quite thick. It was, the first thing that struck me when I picked this one up, is how thick the knife is. Now I realize we're getting some sun here on exactly the spot where I'm showing the knife, so I should probably try to cover that up a bit. Give me a second. Having blocked out the sun, we should be able to continue. As I mentioned, the handle is beefy. If you have smaller hands, you will definitely notice this. To me it works. It still feels a little bit strange because I'm not used to this sort of thickness to the handle. And I mean, it is a contoured handle, like a Coke bottle, sort of, with a very thick, swell here in the very middle, then, going down here and on the bottom part. It is also flared on the back end, so it widens out slightly. And as you can see, there's also some, what do you call this? Some milling done to the scales. I think this is, well, it should be green micarta. And you can see that they have made some patterns in it to give you a better grip. And it does feel, it feels good, and it feels like you do get a slightly better grip as well. There's also some jimping going on here, as can be seen here. And the jimping is fairly aggressive. Not, you know, that it hurts my hand, not that it's uncomfortable, but it is on the aggressive side. That much I can say. For better or worse, depending on your preferences. On the back part of the handle, we can also see, maybe we can try to remove this. I won't use it. Anyways, I don't use lanyards most of the time. But we can see that there is well, obviously a lanyard hole, since there was a lanyard attached to it. But you can also use this as like a glass breaker or a little bit of a skull crusher, perhaps, should you enjoy doing stuff like that. In a reverse grip, the knife feels quite good as well. Placing your thumb up here, well, I would probably not recommend it. But you do have a bit of jimping on this back part. So, I mean, if you place your thumb like that, you will get a pretty good grip, I'd say. The thumb is not going anywhere. It's quite, you know, this jimping is really quite aggressive. So my first impressions is that, well, the packaging may not be, you know, very impressive. But the ergos and the design, the feel of the knife, well, I really like what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling. I hope it will perform nicely in the sharpness test that we have coming up now, because so far there's not much I do not like about this knife and design. It will take some time getting used to the thickness of the, you know, the palm swell here. But aside from that, you know, I really like this. I think we're gonna have a lot of fun with this knife. Next up, we're gonna do the first of what could be several sharpness tests. We're gonna do it the regular way that I do it, which is cutting or slicing some different types of paper, which all pose different types of challenges. So we do have some regular printing paper. We have some magazine paper, and we also have some newspaper. But we're gonna start by trying to slice the regular printing paper. So let's put it aside here. And yeah, let's have a go at it. So it does seem to be pretty sharp, I'd say. Most definitely. So that was quite easy for the knife. Actually, a pretty impressive performance even. Then we can go with magazine paper here. Try to get it visible in the camera, perhaps like this. Let's go for another page. Let's see if we can do some different, movements with the knife while doing the actual cutting, like, it will obviously slice the paper quite nicely. It comes as no surprise since it did so well with the regular printing paper. I was expecting it to slice this kind of paper with ease. Yeah. Shredded the magazine paper completely. Nice clean cuts all around. Then we proceed to the newspaper next, which is always kind of interesting, I'd say. And it does seem to do fairly well, I'd say. Let's try to go through it. Well, newspaper paper is always a bit of a challenge, but still, as you can see, it cuts it with, relative ease. So, I would say that, it did actually quite a nice job. This is a very, particular type of paper to slice up. So to sum it up from this, I would say that the knife is, it is quite sharp. We can do some additional testing here. I would have liked to put this one to the test, shaving some leg hair. But I really am running out of leg hair, but I will see if I can find some small spot where we can get something off, but I can't guarantee it, but I'll see what I can do. So I'm going to some extremes, trying to, make this on camera, and some strange poses and angles, etc. to do this, but I did find some leg hair left here, but it's not gonna be pretty. But let's see if we can shave some leg hair off her now, shall we? So we are getting some hair off. Maybe we can switch the leg like this. Ah! I mean, the hair is popping off, so... Jesus Christ. Okay, so... yeah, that wasn't, you know, very nice looking perhaps, but we did get, you know, some hair off. I'm not quite sure how visible it's gonna be in the camera really, and well, it is what it is. But fact is that, you know, the knife will shave hair. That it will do. So yeah, that's it for leg hair shaving, I think. So we have done some paper slicing, we have done some shaving of, well, a little bit of leg hair, and now I thought we could do something with this piece of leather. Perhaps, you know, making some, well, shreds of it, or, well, I don't really know the word that I am searching for, but, you know, just seeing if we can get some clean cuts in this piece of leather. So I will say that the cuts are, you know, all pretty clean, which is, yeah, nice to see. Then again, we already knew the knife was, you know, sharp. So I guess this is kind of a strange test, to be honest, but I mean, I did have some pieces of leather that I wasn't gonna use for anything in particular, so I thought we could, you know, we might as well just do some different slicing with it to see how it performs, and it performs nice. It's quite, you know, quite stabby too. You know, penetrating the leather. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have a lot of fun with this knife. That much I can say. Might perhaps not become my dedicated leg shaver. Not that it wouldn't do a good job, but, you know, I think there are other uses for a knife like this. So now we're gonna try to make some feathers here using the M311 Spelter. I've already tried making feathers with pieces much like these with some other knives, and to be honest, these wood pieces aren't really the best for making nice feathers, but it is what I have available at home right now, so that is what we will go with. So we're gonna make the most of what we have, pretty much. So let's get going. We can start with this piece, and then we have a backup piece here. I'll see if I can make this as visible as possible in the camera. Down like this. Yeah, I have no clue how visible this is, but once we've made a couple of feathers, I will bring this piece of wood closer to the camera so we can see the result. I wonder if I'm going to use the choiler now. I really am not too fond using these pieces of wood here to make feathers. They are, well, not optimal for that, regardless of the knife you use. This is where we are currently at. Some finer feathers, some, well, you know, thicker feathers. Then we have some nice curls, but they are not attached here. So we're gonna break them loose like this. Then we can try switch side or something here and see if we can make some more. So we're getting some slightly longer but also thicker feathers now. Then again, I mean, a few different sizes is not a bad thing. You can use the, you know, the finest feathers to actually get the fire started, and then the larger ones will help, you know, building the fire itself. So remove that. Perhaps we can go for some more. There's some dirt and stuff here. Might not be the best for the edge, but should hold up, I guess. I'm gonna ditch this piece of wood now. We can try the other one, but it is actually the same, the very same type of tree. So I mean, the difference should be, you know, negligible. It says that, you know, some types of tree or some types of wood make better for feathers. But you do not always have, you know, the luxury, especially out in the woods perhaps, to pick, you know, the best or the finest pieces. But for a test like this, I kind of would have wanted to have, you know, some really good pieces to, you know, to work with. Man, it's biting deep there, so. Like I said, I mean, I'm not a big fan of these pieces of wood here, but, you know, regardless, in the end we would still, you know, get enough to, you know, to build a fire. Some finer feathers, some less fine feathers. I'm not gonna bring my fire steel now, but you know, this, if we made a few, like 3 of these, we should definitely be able to get a fire going, for sure. So yesterday we did some feather sticking, batoning and carving. I wasn't completely satisfied with the feather sticking part because the pieces of wood that I used was not, well, not the best, you know, to show off a feather sticking segment. Even though we managed to do feather sticks, of course. But I thought that we could try another piece of wood here and see if we can make some, you know, better or finer feathers than I did yesterday. So let's see what we can accomplish.
Except some pieces of wood will work better than others. Now we're losing one of the feathers here, but well, I mean, now we're getting some, you know, longer curly feathers at least. So you can try to make some on the other side here. Oops, well, there goes the feathers. Let's remove those. So we're getting a bit more, you know, curly feathers using this type of wood. Not too bad. Let's see if we can well, perhaps this piece of tree wasn't, you know, the best either. Might actually be yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna leave it at that. I obviously don't have any good feather sticking pieces of wood here at home, but even with that we will make useful feathers. I guess I should have brought a fire still now and tried to, you know, put a fire going here. Oh well. So I decided that we're gonna start with the largest piece here. Since it is so large, we will have to make it in segments to work through it. And like I stated, this is a hard piece of wood here. My axe had to do some serious work, so let's see what we can accomplish then, shall we? Perhaps like that. Yeah, is it visible in the camera? Let's see. it is too wide. I have to make it, yeah, we're really gonna have to make it in segments, you know, to make it work out. Hard bark. It's not coming off. So really hard bark. Anyway, that went actually surprisingly well, I'd say. We did manage to get it into more, you know, usable pieces to start a fire. I guess we could make it into some even smaller pieces as well. Like if we actually, you know, needed them to build a fire. Pieces will be a bit, no, it's not too hard actually. Now we can see how well the coating is holding up. This might be a bit trickier, I think. Some type of knot here. So this is much easier to work with now if we were to build, you know, the base of a fire, starting with, of course, the feathers, smaller feather, larger feathers, and then, you know, going with these to really get it going. Then we have some pieces like this as well, and this would make for a nice fire starting material as well. So that is the batoning using the Spelter, and I think it did a really good job, and the coating seems to be holding up. I mean, it will look a bit, it's gonna look a bit dirty now. I'm gonna clean it up so we can get a better look, but as far as I can tell, absolutely none of the coating has been removed. So we have done some feathers, we've done some batoning. Now I want to do some carving. This is a piece that I batoned with another knife, but now I want to make it into a, you know, kind of spear-shaped piercing piece of wood here instead of firewood. So let's let's see what we can do. I guess this could be used as a toothpick now, of sorts. So this is the thickness we started off with, and this is where we are now. I guess it took about less than 2 minutes to make this. And it is fine enough for me to actually use as a toothpick, I would say. Not that bad, actually. Not that bad.
We have now reached the final part of the video review for the M311 Spelter. There are quite a few things I didn't do with this knife. I want to start in that end. We didn't do any slicing of fruits and vegetables, no tomato test, etc. We didn't do any chopping or super heavy work like that. But that is also because I am currently rethinking the structure of my video reviews. They always tend to get quite lengthy, and I think people don't really like spending that much time looking at a single video review. Then again, I know there are people out there who appreciate really lengthy reviews, that just enjoy seeing the knife in some different environments, etc. But I am planning on making a new structure for my video reviews, speeding up some parts, etc. So I'm just throwing that out there. But we did do quite a lot of things still with this knife, starting off with the overview, the specifications, the general design, talking about both knife and the Kydex sheath here, which is actually quite a good Kydex sheath, the type of retention that I like to see when using Kydex sheath. No rattling, etc., which is always nice. And well, the locking mechanism here, this was a new one for me. Never really seen this type of belt mechanism before. I'm sure it is fairly functional. I haven't used it that much in attached to my belt or attached to anything else for that matter. But I'm sure it's functional, but it doesn't look it looks kind of simplistic. Then again, simple doesn't mean bad. Sometimes, overcomplicated systems can be, well, not the best either. So somewhere in between is probably a good thing. Looking at the knife itself here, like I stated, we went over the specs and the overall design, etc. We then put it to some different sharpness tests, and it pretty much excelled at the sharpness tests. This is a sharp edge. It is a really nice sharp edge here. So we did some slicing of papers, and that was quite easy. We did some, we did shave some leg hair, and it could do that as well. We sliced some leather, no issues. No issues, penetrating the leather and then slicing or cutting it. And after that, we did some more, practical outdoor chores, doing some feather sticking, batoning, wood carving, and that is perhaps it. So, I mean, I do feel like we should have perhaps put it up against some other tasks, but I also don't want the reviews to get too lengthy, among a few other things. So, what are my, my general thoughts here? I like this knife a lot. That is quite obvious for those who have seen most parts of this full review. I think the ergos are really nice. The handle is thick. I mean, I have gotten used to it, the really wide part here. It fills my hand well. I mean, it does feel, it just feels unusual because I don't have any other knives with as thick of a handle or midsection here, palm swell like this. So I could have thinned it out a bit, would have been nice. Or, well, I cannot thin it out because I wouldn't be able to make this this texture back on if I did try to thin it out. But I mean, it feels good, just a bit unusual, but not, in a bad way. I also very much appreciate the full finger choil here, which is why I went with this version of the M311 Spelter. There is another one called M311 Spelter NC. And I realized first now, I guess, that NC probably stands for, yeah, you guessed it, no choil. So for those of you who do not like, finger choils for, close-up, fine detail work, etc., then you should probably go with the NC version instead. I mean, getting some extra cutting length is, of course, it's never really a bad thing, but I just like this, especially when you have this placement up here for your thumb. And we've already gone over this in the first part of the video, but I will say it again. This is how I feel like the knife was intended to be used, and the original design. But I guess they wanted to please more people who really have an issue with finger choils. The coating here, like I said, we haven't done a lot of work, but we did do some work that would put the coating to a bit of a test. As you can see, the coating is 100% intact. I just cleaned the knife up a bit here as well, because there were some superficial marks, but they were easily removed with just some soap and not, what's the English word? Well, the thing you use to rub with when using some soap. So I will say that the DLC coating seems to be holding up well, but in a more long-term use, I guess we could revisit the knife in maybe like midsummer, because this knife will go out with me for at least for a couple of times here during spring and during the summer, and well, autumn and winter also, of course. I mean, this is a all-year knife. Most are, I guess. I still don't get 100% why they put this DLC coating on an Elmex blade, which is already highly corrosion resistant. But I guess it's from a more tactical standpoint. I think that The non-Elmax version of this blade, the N690 steel version, I believe is sort of satin, perhaps stonewashed, but it's not DLC coated. Not that I mind DLC coated blades, I do have quite a few of them by now. Also, well, what am I gonna say? I mean, this is a really nice sized fixed blade. There's actually not, you know, many things I dislike about it. It just works, I'd say. It would be interesting to put it up against perhaps, you know, a knife from TRC, perhaps a knife from, yeah, some other makers, you know, have a little, you know, face-off, or, you know, a bit of a competition perhaps, doing some different tasks. But overall, I am pleasantly surprised. I'm really glad I did pull the trigger on this one. It is, I will say, it is pretty much what I expected from the knife. And I was expecting a good experience, or not a good, a great experience, which is what I got. And I am a bit late to the party, I believe. I get that feeling every once in a while. So, I mean, if you have been thinking about picking this knife up, the original, the regular, or the non-choil version, then I would say you're good to go, because this is a quality knife. There is no doubt about that. I feel like I should have done more with it in this video review, but there are a lot of blades I want to review, there are a lot of videos I want to make, and sometimes you have to, you know, cut back on something. But like I stated, I will look over my entire video review structure for future, or well, not in the nearest future, because I've been recording videos simultaneously with this one, so they will follow pretty much the exact same routine, but I will try to make shorter and more, well, not really interesting, more interesting videos, but in a way I guess they will be. So that's it for now. Very nice knife, real nice Kydex sheath. Yeah, a winner in my book in terms of design, materials, ergos, etc. M311 Spelter.